Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome to the Civil Gore Podcast. This is episode 262. I completely botched this intro, and I am your host, Tim.
And this is Brian. But that's okay. We haven't done a real episode in a while. We've had the mini-sodes. Tim's solo episode. We did an episode of Kim and Ket.
Yeah, we're way out of practice. So.
Yeah, and mostly 99% of it was my fault due to my move and rearranging stuff and travel and everything. But we're back now. This is a full episode, a regular good old episode with a movie and everything.
Yeah. And we are gearing up, which we'll probably tease maybe towards the end of the episode. Our summer SLAYCATION, which is we're going to try to start it a little earlier this year because last year it ran all the way into September. Like people were going back to school, there was like fall leaves in the air, and we were still trying to wrap up our summer SLAYCATIon. We're going to try to avoid that this year. So I guess we'll get right into it, Brian. This is our rare, apparently,
I was going to
from
say,
the last few episodes. I forget what we called it. Our first chop. All right, so I watched a few things. I guess we could kind of alternate because we both watched the movie that you're going to talk about. I'll kick things off with one of mine. I watched The Pope's Exorcist, which is, of course, the Russell Crowe vehicle. Where I couldn't even remember if I talked about this on the show before. I don't think I did, but this is a very by the book standard exorcism movie, possession movie. I think the bright spot of the whole movie was Russell Crowe. I liked his character because he's a priest and he's a believer, but he's also not very formal. You know, he understands that most of the exorcisms that he deals with are not supernatural, and so he kind of has like a more I wouldn't say skeptical because he is a believer, but he comes in wanting to disprove it as supernatural. So when he does run into one that's real. He kind of has more of takes it more seriously because he knows how rare it actually is. So I really liked his character, but the rest of the movie is very, very standard possession movie, exorcist stuff. I was kind of hoping for something a little different, but instead we get kind of a by the numbers movie. It's still entertaining. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, especially because I really liked Russell Crowe's character, but otherwise, I think you could safely skip this one if you're looking for something kind of out of the mold of your typical possession movie.
So Tim, let me ask you: would you call this a typical Russell Crowe movie, or?
Sorry, that's really bad. That's really
that
bad.
was bad.
That was really bad.
That was terrible. I'm sorry. I couldn't. Yeah, I'm out of practice with my puns. Although I had the good one on the trip, I told you guys that one with Julie and I. I'll get to this later when we do our travel, but on the way there we passed a building and it said the Circle Museum, and Julie had said, "Oh look, the Circle Museum," and I said, "Oh yeah, no, that's been around a long time." So I thought that was a good
that was
one.
really good. That was good.
Yeah, that was like Tim worthy to call right away.
That's the guy that's so good the person may not even realize it's a pun.
It was, yeah. She just kind of, gave me the look in the eye roll, like she knew what I had said.
I heard a great one tonight because I watch a live record show that my local record store puts on every week.
I want to do that one time. It sounds so much fun.
It's so much fun. But what they do is they get up there, they just sell records. I mean, this is the new releases for this week, and if you want a record, you type. It's on a Facebook live thing. So if you want a record, you just say sold, and they get your information, and they you sell the record right over the air. But it's fun because they get to talk about the records and stuff. But they're big jokesters and big punsters, and so they were talking about the owner of the show, Tony, was talking about he's so tired of like $19.99 or $29.98. He was like, what if we just raised the price of everything in the store 2 cents and just made everything a round number? And he's like, so instead of like $19.98, it would be $20. And he said, what do you think of that, Doug? And Doug said, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Oh, God. That's good, though.
Yeah, but that's just kind of they're subtle enough that somebody might not get it at first. I like this.
Yeah, but those are the kind that I think Tim and I, that's definitely our expertise in there, those.
Yeah.
But,
well, I guess we'll talk about fall since you
Yeah. I'll start really. I have to say, like this is one of these movies, and I was telling actually Julie this comparison I'm gonna make, and it's gonna sound weird, but I had a comparison when I first saw the trailer to when I first saw the trailer for Speed. I don't know if you remember the original Speed trailers. Looked very hokey. I mean, yes, it had Keanu Reeves, Sandra Bullock, who was still not. I mean, she wasn't huge then. I think that was when she first started to get noticed.
Yeah, it was right before she started getting big.
Yeah. So but Dennis Hopper, so you knew this cast, but like you're like, oh my god, it's a movie you're gonna watch this whole time about a bus being that. This is so silly. What a corny thing. But yet, and when I went and saw it, I was like, this movie's awesome, and I loved it, and everyone received it that way. And I remember the theater chuckling during the trailers, and yet it was a massive hit, of course, and then destroyed with a terrible sequel. But but anyway, so kind of that's kind of vibe I got with this. I'm like, okay, you took like, all right, Speed, okay, because it was in a bus, Fall because you're on a tower. So I'm like, okay, this is gonna be good. But then people started hearing things trickle out how good it was, and I think out of our group, like Ken was the first to saw it.
Yeah, he watched it right? Plane.
And when he saw it, he gave it. He goes, this is really good. And then a friend of mine told me, another friend of mine said, he's like, oh my god, it was like traumatized. Da, da, da. And I'm like, so then you saw it and you gave it good things. I don't know. I think Emily and Cohn might have seen it. I don't remember, but anyway, so I finally went and watched it, and it's like not only did I really enjoy it, but at some level it gave me more anxiety than any other movie I think ever did. Because and I watched it on an iPad. I can only imagine you watching this in a like an IMAX or something, or 3D or something. I think I would have I would have had to strap myself into the movie seat. I mean, it was well done in that way where and I just, what it is like, I had to keep reminding myself. I said, well, I will never get into this situation because I will not be climbing a tower.
Which, to be fair, they should have never gotten to that situation either. But
they shouldn't. They shouldn't have. But somehow in the movie, and usually these movies are like, and especially with all this isn't really horror, but with all the horror movies we watch, how many times do you make the comment like, oh, what a stupid decision they made, you know? But in this, I have to say, they didn't other than climbing the tower itself and not really catching the fact that it was rusted and things were loose and everything. But I have to say, they didn't really make stupid decisions. In fact, when they realized the predicament they were in, they actually made some very clever decisions. And I don't know how, because if that was me and somehow I was even up there, I literally would be such paralyzing fear would come over me that I'd literally be just sitting there. I don't even know what I'd do. I think I'd be catatonic. And I'm not.
Me too. There was one time when I got up on the roof, and this is so silly but I'm scared of heights, which you wouldn't think from my roller coaster stuff.
Right. I have to say it's different.
It's
People,
different,
you have to understand the roller coaster heights are different. You're in a seat. You're secured in something. How you're getting down.
Exactly.
It's like,
but I get terrified if I climb a ladder, and I'm not talking like a tall ladder. I'm talking like a ladder to get on the single story house. Yeah. Like you're only 12 feet up, maybe. Like that.
Yeah, if that.
I will shake. I got up to clean the in our old house. I got up on this. It was literally just one story. It was like right above the garage. I got on that side roof to clean the gutters out, and I got all the way up there, and I was on the roof, and I just froze. I could not get back down. Yeah. Like I was just shaking. I could not. And Olivia's like, just stand back on the ladder, and I'm like, I can't. Like I can't move. Yeah. That's a real fear.
And I'm someone. I mean, you saw. I sent you the video, and I never posted it on our Instagram. I probably should edit it up and post it. Julie and I did that crazy pterodactyl thing. Yeah. And I went to Glenwood Caverns where every ride hangs off the edge and swings you off the edge. And I've done rope courses that have been somewhat high, but yes, you're tweezled in, as they call it, on the that's 20 feet up, and and I'm and I am nervous. There's this adrenaline that rushes.
That ropes course was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Oh yeah, no, it's good. There, remember that one where that one I was telling you, the pterodactyl one? They have a ropes course there that juts out over the canyon, and so at one point you're on this little thing and you have to walk on a little beam that's
I couldn't do it. I literally
1,000 feet up and around. Yeah. Like I couldn't, that stratosphere thing I did is still probably the scariest one I did. It's funny. You would have thought that swinging thing I did, but it was the stratosphere one where they did the teeter-totter thing at the end, the X Scream, I think, it's called. Like the one, like that one was still probably the most terrifying thing I've ever done. Just because, it's like you go face down and you're hanging over and then it does, back and forth. And even though I know coaster technology and I know what, magnetic brake is going to do, that it's going to it scientifically has to work. It's like it's not going to not work, but still that was probably the most traumatizing thing. So and so when I see something even like I think we were at the Julie and I were at the top of the Eiffel Tower thing at King's Dominion once, in Kings Island. It has the same thing. You've been to both parks, so you've been up there, and I've been on the top of there, and even just then, Julie will take out her phone and kind of put it through the bar and like take a selfie of us on I'm getting anxiety because I'm worried she's gonna drop the phone or she's gonna like somehow fall through.
Yeah.
And like when these people are doing everything short but cooking dinner up there on this little thing, I'm like, oh my god, stop moving, and they're moving so carefree without any kind of concern. It just the anxiety to the point of where I almost had to and I can't believe I'm saying this because of all the other stuff I watch, I literally almost had to stop and turn it off because I was getting. And, and I know I'm like, okay, it's a movie. I'm literally watching it on my iPad. Okay. It's like, I know I won't find myself this, but still, that's how I think well done this was actually. And I was like completely impressed with it. I know that some people probably say, oh, that's stupid. It's not going to bother me, but just watch it if you haven't yet.
Yeah.
Well, I want to hear your thoughts now, Tim.
Oh, this one didn't affect me from the heights perspective so much because I knew it was a fictional movie. But I have watched 2 documentaries. There's that Man on a Wire one where the guys had to do the tightrope between the World Trade Center or something.
Oh yeah, I saw the real movie of that. Yeah, and that was bad enough. Yeah. The one with Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
And then then I saw the documentary where the dude was the first guy to solo free climb.
Oh, free solo. Yeah, that one was. That one's crazy. That
one was one I almost had to turn off because that is real life. I mean, that guy really did that. So this one did.
Julie knows that it's all that stuff because she used to go to the park there.
Yeah, so. That's a terrifying documentary if you've ever seen that one. But so the height thing didn't bother me like it did you on that one, even though I am terrified of heights just because I knew it was all fictional. But me going in, I tend to not like what I consider gimmick movies. And what a gimmick movie to me would be it takes place all in one room, or it takes place all in one phone booth, and I shouldn't make that broad generalization because I've watched movies that I've really enjoyed that were confined to one location like that. But in general, those don't appeal to me. I don't like movies that are just one single premise where everybody's trapped in a cave or everybody's trapped. I don't know. I just don't. It's not. I'll watch them if I've heard good things, but I won't seek them out. So I was not looking forward to this one. I probably wouldn't have watched it if Ken hadn't sung its praises because I'm like, oh, it's in a tower. I spent 2 hours watching these people up on this tower. How boring is that? But I'm happy to say I was dead wrong. I really, really like this one. It was. Yeah. I mean, one of the characters is pretty unlikable through the whole thing, but without giving any spoilers away, the movie redeems itself. Everything was very satisfying. I really, really liked it, and so I would recommend it for sure.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I'm glad you brought up the gimmick point because that's literally what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be them on the tower and okay, we almost fell here. Oh my god, we almost fell there. Oh my god, this is good. And yeah, it had little bits of that, but it was spaced out with good dialogue, some good premises, some ingenious plans to kind of solve their situation.
Yeah, it never felt like there was filler. When I see a movie like that, I'm expecting a lot of filler.
Right.
And I didn't feel like this one had that. Every scene felt tight. It felt I felt invested the entire time. So yeah, I would. Yeah, they avoided the thing that I was fearing the most out of it, which was that it was a gimmicky movie.
Yeah, the funny thing is, it almost had there was a little comparison to in just the beginning, and then to when the whole situation of cliffhanger a little bit, like Sylvester Stallone, how the opening happens, and then then they're back to climbing again, after a tragedy kind of thing.
Weren't they going to make a cliffhanger too? Weren't they? What were they?
I thought they were supposed to be. I don't know. I remember there was a cliffhanger video game that was stunk.
How does Sylvester Stallone wind up in every podcast episode? I don't know.
He does, and I picture him going, "Yo, Adrian, they stole my movie," and now like especially because Tim's starting to watch the Sylvester Stallone like TV show, which I gotta watch. But anyway, let's move on from him because we'll do that eventually. Rocky podcast, yes. I'm sure. But,
So our good buddy Jeff Whitmire, who of course appeared on our last episode for our Chainsaw Awards roundtable, he is a magnificent Twitter presence. He's always entertaining, and one of his recent endeavors was going through the entire Blackwell Ghost series, and I just could not resist his enthusiasm over this series. When he was talking about it, he was like kind of almost not live tweeting, but he was tweeting about them as he watched each entry. There's like 7 of them right now. So I was like, I got to check these out. Now, I realized after I started watching the first one that I had seen it maybe a couple of years ago, the very first one. But
I think that's the only one I saw. And Julie actually watched it first, believe it or not. 'Cause I think she thought it was a regular documentary that she kind of stumbled into. So.
Yeah, so I had watched that one before, but I watched it again for this run through, and then I watched the rest of them. The only bad part is none of these are available on any streaming services. They're all just for rent. So I ended up renting them all on Prime. So I probably spent $25. I mean, if you, one helpful tip is just don't rent the HD version because they really don't. You don't need to watch these in HD. So you can save $1 per movie if you just watch the standard version, which is what I did. So I think they were like $3 a piece to rent. But I tell you, I don't regret the expenditure at all because I absolutely love these. It's almost a one-man outfit that makes these movies. And the guy, he's very likable. And the first Blackwell Ghost movie is about him and his wife, and they're going to go investigate this supposedly haunted house. And it's done in a very realistic documentary style. And it's presented as real. It's not presented as fictional at all. So, and then they go and investigate this haunted house, and it's very Paranormal Activity-esque in that it's very small things that happen that kind of slowly escalate. And the movies aren't very long. I think the longest one is probably an hour and a half, but most of them are somewhere around 70 minutes. I think even the first couple ones might even be under an hour. So, but he does so much with so little. Like it's very impressive how entertaining he makes these movies, even though there's not like a ton of special effects. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, a lot of it is just him, setting up equipment or talking about something, but somehow he makes this really captivating story. And the series is interesting because it changes a lot throughout. Like the first 2 movies are about him investigating the actual Blackwell ghost at this original haunted house. And then the third movie, he jumps to a house in Florida that is also haunted. And then he gets caught up in this whole storyline there, which I won't go into for spoilers, but there's a whole storyline that goes through the rest of the series that happens at the Florida house. And then the final movie goes in a completely different direction. So I don't know where he's going to go with 8, but these are like incredibly entertaining. They're actually very realistic even though they're fictional, they're pretty darn good in terms of like the people he interviews don't feel actory. They feel like real people, that kind of stuff. So, I mean, this guy's very secretive because we've been trying to I was trying to do a lot of research to see if we could get him on the show or something or figure.
Yeah, Jeff was even having trouble.
Yeah, but this guy's like really secretive. He tries to keep this as like to feel as real as possible. So, I don't know if we'll ever have any luck there, but I absolutely love this series. I would highly recommend it. I mean, again, go in knowing what you're getting. These are very minimalist filmmaking here, but I highly recommend them. This goes to show that budget doesn't matter if your movie making skills are high enough, and these are just super entertaining.
Just for the record, if anyone wants to start, at least the first one looks like is available on Tubi, so you at least get to watch the first one.
I think, maybe on Prime as well. I think you can watch the first one for free.
Yeah, and Plex also seems to have it as well as Filmzy. So there's a couple of options you have for free, but the rest are all on. Looks like it's all on Prime for rent, as Tim said. But looks like you can get at least the first one free, which is good because you got to start there.
I'd say spend the $20 and rent them all. They're worth it. Like every one is actually good.
Yeah, and they're not on Blu-ray either. There's like no physical media
No,
as far as I know.
It's weird. It's like it's a weird, really strange series, but I love them. I guess I'll talk about my last one here, Brian, before you go into your Vermont trip, because this is a short one. I watched Subspecies, which is a full moon. This is an older movie. This is from I guess the 90s, but Subspecies is like the vampire portion of the full moon productions. Yeah. And I had never seen any of the Subspecies movies, but there's a new one that just came out. And it got pretty good reviews. Like, people were talking that it was actually pretty good. So I think it's Subspecies 5, I want to say. So I was like, I need to watch these. Like, I love full moon movies. Like, I should probably watch this one. I actually really, really enjoy this one. I mean, it's cheesy. It's campy. It's just like every full moon movie. I mean, Olivia walked in at one point. She saw some of the little stop motion the demon things that the vampire has that are his servants. And she was like, what the hell are you watching? Because it looks so cheesy. But that's the thing I love about full moon. I mean, they're movies. You can't say they're not entertaining.
No. And I love that they keep they keep just bringing them out no matter what. Like, they just never stop.
Just never stop. And people love them for it. Like, you get like addicted to these franchises or whatever. So I really like the original Subspecies. So I'm going to definitely watch the rest of them and probably Baby Oopsie at some point. I got to get on that train. So
did you ever watch the final Puppet Master one?
Not the Dr. one. No, I didn't watch that one.
That one's really good. I guess, I'll go into my Vermont trip. I know this is going to be probably one of the oddest segments on Civil Gore, because what I'm going to go, the detail of it. So, after our, crazy move, moving is stressful, as Tim knows. So packing up stuff, trying to get stuff in storage so where we can move it to our next destination. And, so Julie and I are like, once we get settled a little bit, and after, we get a little bit of, get organized stuff. Let's take a little mini vacation. We had a couple ideas. At one point, we were going to go to Cedar Point. Cedar Point's, of course, I love going to roller coasters and everything, but I'm like, you know what? Is that going to be relaxing? That's going to just be more like go, 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 go. We wanted something relaxing. So I've started looking up, and we've always wanted to hit Vermont again because we love the beer up there. Vermont is definitely one of the biggest beer states you could go to. There's some of our favorite breweries up there. Alchemist being one of the best, and Hills Farmstead. Anyway, so we wanted to go up there, and so I was like, and then we don't have to board Obi because I can probably find a pet-friendly hotel. Not only did I found the pet-friendly place. It was a B&B, and it was called the Paw House Inn. It's basically designed as a B&B with your dog, which, Tim, will be great for you guys. You guys ever take a trip in family, you can bring Mia.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, so the place is so set up. They actually charge you $10 if you don't bring a dog, which is the exact opposite of everywhere else where they give you a pet surcharge if you bring a pet. But here it's the opposite. And so, it's like typical B&B fashion where, you get your breakfast in the morning, and oh my God, they gave out this, I mean, it was amazing, fresh cooked omelet or waffles, and it's Vermont, so there's great cheese involved and apples and fruit and everything. So you get this 3-course breakfast every morning and coffee out on their little deck. So anyway, but what was crazy is each room has its own little dog bed, and the dog is the guest. So it's we go to our room and they're like, oh, is this Obi? Not even
that's
Julie
cool.
and I get, yeah. And the door, when we got to our room, we had with the Shakespeare room, each room is themed in a certain way. So we got the Shakespeare room. They actually had a little dog bed there with a blanket, a towel, and a little bag of treats and that said Obi on it. The door says Obi on it.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, and there's also a couple of cottages connected away from the main building. There's a giant dog park that they have of their own, which little agility courses and stuff they could go up, and toys they leave out there for the dogs. There's little in certain areas little hitching things so you can put the leash on it. There's, they always have dog biscuits around. They have food if you need it. Any kind of things you might have forgot. They usually have a supply for you there. Another cool thing was most places, most hotels. I don't know if you look for this. If you've never gone away yet with Mia, but even dog friendly hotels, a lot of times they will say, we do not want you to leave the dog in the room alone because you don't know how a dog's going to react in a strange place. And they don't want the hotel destroyed. Now, here they said that as well. They said, don't leave your dog unattended in the room. But what they did is they made this giant building and each guest and dog has their own little dog run that you can put them in if you need to run, and it's all like climate controlled. And so if you need to go out for dinner and you can't find an outside place, or it's too cold, like in the winter you're not going to find outdoor seating, you can actually leave the dogs in their own little dog run. Which where we could stay for a couple of hours, and they have it's open 24/7, so you could do it at any point in the day. They even during the day though, they said if you need to do something and you need the dog to be walked or fed, they'll do that for you between 10 and 4, which is cool. So they have a whole dog loving staff on there, and it really was cool. Julie and I did the whole thing. We got there, went up to the different there's one cider store that we like that has all this fresh apple cider and donuts and everything. And I'll post some pictures. I just haven't got around to it yet. And of course, went to Alchemist to get some of our favorite beer to bring back. But once again, I'll provide that information too, because I know a lot of our listeners are dog lovers too.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
So I'll post all the information of the Paw House and tag them, because I recommend them as one of the highest ratings I could give. I mean, just for the way they it's a great bed and breakfast experience to begin with, but then all the bonus things for your dog, which is great. But anyway, so we went to this brewery. One of our favorite breweries is Treehouse, which is in Massachusetts area. I gotta send you the pictures to these later, Tim. This is probably the biggest brewery I've ever seen.
Wow.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. It looks like a resort. It looks like you're literally staying at some kind of Catskills resort. First you go through this thing, and it's you go through this giant arched sign, and Julie's like, what are we in Jurassic Park? It was because it's funny, it's Treehouse Brewing, and we go in there. And so when we got there, we went on a Tuesday, and it's usually not, I guess they said it's not too crowded on a Tuesday. There was still probably, at least 100 plus people there, but it looked empty because that's how big the space is. There's a massive indoor space. There's they produce so much beer there. They have, and people go, they'll go to this brewery to just buy cases and cases of it. In fact, they have I was looking, and I kept seeing this, people walk with these hand trucks. There's a room full of just hand trucks that you could take, because people are literally buying 10 cases of beer at a time, walking out. Yeah, it's unreal. The inside was big enough, but then they had this massive outdoor thing under an awning kind of thing. You remember Knoebels where we did the where Mike Collins hosted the wedding. Picture that, but twice the size, and that was they have that. But then behind that, they had this whole hilly area with there must have been 100 plus Adirondack chairs, all scattered out. You could sit there. There was a giant koi pond.
Jeez.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy. I'll send you the pictures. But the beer is incredible. Every one we've had is good. So I'll have to give some beer reviews this weekend, because we have some to try there. And here's one of the coolest things I saw. So they get so packed, but true beer lovers and beer snobs, like I say, sometimes Julie and I are. We feel beer snobbish, but we like our IPAs. So, any, the big line, people get on, want to try all the IPAs. They have two giant bars, one for IPAs and one for all the other beers.
Oh, wow.
Just so you don't, because they said for the people that don't want to wait in lines for the hot new IPA, they could just go on and get their stout.
There's some people Olivia doesn't like IPAs at all.
Right. So she'd have a bar, she can go and she doesn't have to wait on the line for all the rare beers. She could go over to the other side and get that. Yeah, and this place actually did distilleries. So we picked up for Julie for my birthday, she picked up an apple brandy for me, but they also do make vodka there, I think. They have a couple of mixed drinks they do.
That's awesome.
But yeah, and with the 3 beers we had that day were pure perfection. I mean, they're clapback level, all of them.
Wow.
So I'll have to give you more, but I'll send you the pictures. I want to post some of the pictures. It's you can't even get the scope of it until you're there. It's crazy how big the land they have there. It's you could probably put a small theme park on the land they have.
That sounds amazing.
That's how big. Yeah, it is. It's and that's one of their 4 breweries. They have 4 locations now, I think. So that was my Vermont trip. So it was very relaxing. Really, really good trip in there. But so I'll leave all that information on our site at some point. So we can, so if you want to partake in that, anyone in the East Coast. So I guess should I do the promo?
Yeah, let's do a promo.
Yeah, so we got a promo here. I'll read it for you. 2 years after escaping an attack on her family, Becky is attempting to rebuild her life. But when her home is broken into by a group called the Noblemen, and they take her beloved dog Diego, she returns to her old ways to protect herself. Literally, a bloody good time, says the Austin Chronicle. The Wrath of Becky, starring Lulu Wilson and Sean William Scott, is only in theaters May 26th. So by the time you you were listening to this, it will be out. So go check it out. I think the original we found out, the first one, is on Showtime currently. Keep your eyes open on social media because we are going to have a promo involving that I think is cool. It's something we've never had before to give away. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We mentioned on our last episode we have a new logo, so hopefully you guys like the new logo. I think we've gotten some pretty positive feedback on it.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to bring it up again just to see if everyone has checked it out, and also mention that I know our store is kind of like this little secondary thing. We know Cody definitely had partaken in some of the cooler, weirder items in there with the shower curtain, but just want to let you know, eventually we will be transitioning probably away from that old logo completely off the store. So if you want to get it, happen to want something from the old logo, I would get it now, because soon I'm going to replace the store with the new logo and get a bunch. And we're also having some people work on some variations of our logo for merch only, so it'll be like our standard logo will be the one you see, but there might be some cool variations. So there'll be some cool stuff in the store there if you want to walk around with Tim's amazing logo.
Yeah, I know we're gonna have to. I'm gonna have to get a hoodie. Anna's gonna have to get a hoodie because she loves her.
Those hoodies are great too.
Yeah, they're so good, and so I'm definitely gonna be upgrading all of my merch to the new logo because I really like it.
Yeah, I need a new mug now.
Yeah, I know. I gotta get a new mug as well.
Yeah, I gotta get new everything. I want the new stuff. I don't want to be walking around with. I mean, the OG logo is still kind of cool there. It was funny because I handed out. We need new business cards too, because I handed out some this week to some people we met over in Vermont, and I said, I was kind of telling them. I said, this is our old logo, but and I showed them the new one, and they just said, oh yeah. So a lot of people like the new one. I think you did an amazing job on that, and it got a lot of positive comments on it, which is good.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was a little cleaner, a little simpler, a little more representative of our brand. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah, more us, because it's that more cartoonish feel
we
to it.
I inject a little humor into it. So,
yeah. And speaking of humor, let's move on to our first. No,
yeah, I wouldn't say this was
not
a laugh riot by any stretch of the
No,
imagination.
not at all. But
we're talking about Knock at the Cabin, which of course came out this year, directed by our favorite twist director, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes. Still one of my favorite overall directors. I know he gets criticism every now and then, but he's made some of my favorite movies, so I will always be in his corner regardless, even when he makes a dud.
I'm a defender because I think he's been unfairly criticized in some cases.
Yeah. Well, when you come out with Sixth Sense, you come out with such a strong one.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. He's been criticized for basically not replicating his masterpiece, which is unfair.
Yeah, I happen to I still think my favorite of all time that he did, believe it or not, is still Unbreakable.
Yeah.
I love Unbreakable.
I mean, I like way more of his. There's been some duds. He's had a couple duds, but what director hasn't? I mean, Spielberg's had duds.
Right.
I mean, I like far more of his movies than I don't like. Now this one is, of course, based on a book by Paul Tremblay, who is one of my favorite horror writers right now. Stephen King's obviously going to always be my favorite horror author of all time, but Paul Tremblay has really risen in the ranks recently. For me, I just think his books are incredible, and he's one of those writers. Like I read a lot of horror novels, and not many of them scare me in any way. But Paul Tremblay has a way to do. There's certain even throwaway lines and things in some of his books that are chilling to me. Like they actually give me chills. Like he's got just certain ideas and certain ways he says things that are really genuinely scary, which is very rare for me to see when I'm reading horror. He is definitely one of my favorite authors. Now, I will say, we'll get into it. Let's read the cast list here first, but because I do have something to say about that. This one stars Dave Bautista as Leonard, Jonathan Groff as Eric, Ben Aldridge as Andrew, Nikki Amuka Bird as Sabrina, Rupert Grint as Redmond. That's right. Ron Weasley is in this movie. Abby Quinn as Adrian and Kristen Cui as Wynn. While vacationing, a girl and her parents are taken hostage by armed strangers who demand that the family make a choice to avert the apocalypse. So, like I said, this was based off the book Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay, and I have to say that's my least favorite book of his that I've read.
Really?
Yeah. And I felt kind of bad because I was going into this movie already. Well, the movie had two strikes against it, even as I was going into it. Number one, I already knew what was going to happen, which takes away all the suspense. And then number two, it was not my favorite Paul Tremblay book. So I was already not like super hyped for it. And the movie adheres fairly closely to the book. I'll point out some differences without spoilers later on in the review. But overall, I did not like this movie. I think it's probably likely that people who did not read the book did like this movie, because you're not going into it knowing everything like I did. It's one of those cases where I think watching or reading the book first actually makes the movie worse. And again, that's just a case of knowing what's going to happen. It takes away all the suspense and the thrill, which this whole movie is built upon suspense. And if you take that away, there's no movie left. It's very rare that I've seen a movie that can get away with that, where you like, I know everything's going to happen, but the movie still is incredible. This one, unfortunately, did not do it for me. So I'm curious, Brian, what you thought of it, having not read the book.
So, this is funny. Even though they flat out like gone, like kind of said like, oh, this is not really one of his typical twist movies and everything like that. He, I always still take that with a grain of salt, and the way this is, I was prepared for some kind of little twist, little reveal, something. But so I kind of went into that. I mean, overall I enjoyed it. Was it my favorite M. Night Shyamalan? Probably not, even by probably fifth maybe, or something like that. So I mean, I definitely liked or maybe even sixth. I don't know. I definitely liked all the the ones that the Breakable